everyone, I'm Larissa Ness. I'm an integrative health practitioner, and today I wanted to talk about mental health. I think we all understand that in the past year there's been a very much a large rise in mental health concerns. But today I want to talk about biological reasons and imbalances that can be addressed from a natural health and nutritional standpoint. Reasons for why it's maybe harder to break through that vicious cycle, even if you have been working with a therapist and have maybe even tried things like medication. I just feel like this is a really, really important topic because I feel like there's not enough information out there about it. And the things I'm going to talk about today are in no way discounting the importance of working with a therapist on, traumatic issues and emotional concerns and things you're dealing with. That's very, very important in mindset. But what I want to talk about is the impact of really, really important things like gut bacteria and nutritional imbalances and leading to deficiencies for critical nutrient building blocks that you need to make neurotransmitters. I don't think there's enough education out there on this, and so I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention and get it out there more so because this is actually a topic that is very near and dear to my heart because I have lost somebody very close to me recently from an addiction. And as you probably know and understand that addictions happen when there's neurotransmitter imbalances and people are trying to self-medicate. I've also lost people from suicide. I had people close to me threaten suicide. And I think it's really, really important for people to understand it's a whole body problem. It's a whole body imbalance. Or I should say it's multiple imbalances that are in the body that are happening all at once. And it's a storm that just kind of swoops in and overtakes people and they don't really realize what happened. And so many people are still in the mindset that the brain and the body are not connected. And that is absolutely not true. So the big topic that I want to talk about today is gut bacteria. And your gut bacteria, you have trillions of microbes in your gut microbiome. And they impact your gene expression. They impact so many things in your body. And one of those is mental health. They impact mood, they impact pain, your pain threshold even, behavior. So all of these things are impacted. 95%, I think you should hear some stats. So 95% of serotonin is produced in the gut. And about 50% of dopamine is produced in the gut. So if you have any type of overgrowth of the wrong bacterial strains, if you don't have enough of the good guys, or even an overgrowth of some of the beneficial bacteria, that causes imbalances in the body. Okay, imbalances in the microbiome. So this is all very, very important to consider. I have actually quite a few clients that I work with that struggled with mental health issues, and it was very, very hard for them to get past that until they were able to really address some of these underlying imbalances like imbalanced gut bacteria. So according to one study, researchers in Belgium found that people with depression were low in two particular bacterial strains, Coprococcus and Dialister. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing those right, but commensal, an overgrowth of pathogenic or commensal bacteria these bacteria will actually produce endotoxins, toxic byproducts, okay, that basically are literally poisoning your body. And when that happens, when there's these imbalances in your gut bacteria, it causes all kinds of things besides even just mental health concerns. It can be causing your acne. It can be causing hair thinning in women. It can be causing eczema, psoriasis, autoimmune conditions, so hormonal imbalances, so many things are impacted. But of course, we're just talking about gut bacteria right now. So, but these toxic byproducts are driving up inflammation. So some inflammation is good. We need some. It's important. It's in a healthy immune system, you have inflammation, but it's when it becomes chronic that it becomes a problem. So inflammation plays a very large role in mental health. And this is why there's, a lot of people that can actually get a lot of mood boosting benefits just by optimizing their omega-3 to omega-6 ratio through taking the right omega-3 supplement with the proper ratio of EPA to DHA. And that's actually one of the tests I run out of my practice. Anybody who's dealing with mental health concerns, I always recommend running what we call the Big 5 labs. So we can get a very comprehensive view of gut bacteria, and if they have Candida overgrowth and nutritional deficiencies that are building blocks that are maybe they need for neurotransmitters. We're looking at omega-3s, we're looking at hormones, thyroid. All of those are really, really important for having balanced neurotransmitters. But going back to the inflammation. So inflammation, for one thing, chronic inflammation raises your stress hormone, cortisol. So this burns through the nutrients that you need for optimal brain function and to have a calm nervous system. So when you're burning through these nutrients, it can cause all of these symptoms. And nutrients like magnesium, B vitamins, vitamin C, they're the first to get depleted under stress. So not only outside physical stressors, right? Maybe just being under tons of work stress or tons of stress from your home life, that's already depleting these crucial building blocks that you need for balanced neurotransmitters. But also, if you have a body physical stressor like imbalanced gut bacteria, that's also depleting them. So do you see how this can become this vicious cycle? And people don't even realize what's happening. They just know they don't feel good. So when you're deficient in these nutrients, it can, or you have, higher levels of cortisol, all of this can lead to imbalanced sex hormones, poor thyroid function. Actually, a lot of women get put on and prescribed antidepressants when really they had low, sluggish thyroid that just wasn't picked up on their standard blood work by their primary care doctor. So this is actually another test that I always recommend anybody with mental health concerns they run. With me, I have an at-home lab test that I offer on my website where you can check your thyroid from a functional medicine lens and make sure it's optimal, because that can be one of the main causes for having imbalanced neurotransmitters and having these mental health concerns. High and low neurotransmitters. So, so if you're just joining, I'm talking about underlying root causes and imbalances for mental health concerns, and I've just been talking about inflammation and how inflammation drives up cortisol, which depletes the critical building blocks we need for neurotransmitters. But it can lead to high or low neurotransmitters. It can lead to food cravings. It can also lead to weight gain, and just so much more. Back to that vicious cycle, right? And nobody has any idea all this stuff is happening. All of these systems, I can't speak today, all of these systems are connected, and they have to work together like a dynamic symphony or orchestra. All the different players have to be playing. I always bring up this analogy. They have to be playing in the same key. They have to be playing with the same time signature. They all have to be following the conductor. And if they're not, things go awry. So back onto the high and the low. I mentioned high and low neurotransmitters, right? Can be a problem. So a lot of people don't realize, they think, oh, I just have low serotonin. Not necessarily. You can have high serotonin and low serotonin and have similar symptoms. So this is actually when testing can be beneficial, especially if you are on a medication. I'm actually now offering a comprehensive neurotransmitter profile test out of my practice as an add-on after we've addressed all of these main big factors that could be causing neurotransmitter issues. But I want to first take a little quick aside and talk about symptoms. I think more obvious, I think people realize for serotonin imbalances would be depressed mood, right? But that could be low or high, like I just mentioned. Also suicidal thoughts, crying, outbursts of anger, obsessive compulsive traits, aches and pains, bowel and bladder problems. Having low serotonin can be causing constipation. So that can be one sign. And of course, gut bacteria, we know if your gut bacteria is imbalanced, you have an overgrowth or something going on there, that can be causing constipation as well. Some symptoms of dopamine deficiency would be mood swings, depression, anxiety as well. Lack of motivation, loss of interest in hobbies, loss of interest in sex, isolation, inability to finish tasks, and forgetfulness. Pathological states that are associated with low dopamine include ADHD, autism, schizophrenia, restless leg syndrome, and Parkinson's disease. So it's important to address the underlying root causes for why you're having neurotransmitter imbalances, because it can potentially progress to more serious things later if they aren't addressed early on, like Parkinson's, for example. So you want to get to the root cause as early as possible with everything, honestly, in life. That's why I became an IHP, because I was seeing so many people dealing with things, and I was watching people's chronic illnesses progress, and I just knew, I felt like my mission I felt like I needed to be out there, and like I was not doing what I was supposed to do in life by just sitting on the sidelines watching people get to the point where they feel like they have to take their own life, or they get to the point where they do have a cancer diagnosis because they didn't understand how valuable replenishing nutrient deficiencies and removing toxicities and rebalancing the digestive system is. So that's a part of my journey as an integrative health practitioner, just as an aside. But yeah, so I was talking about building blocks, and we were just talking about symptoms, right, of serotonin deficiency and dopamine deficiency, and there's a lot of other neurotransmitters as well. But I want to go into the building blocks, because I think it's important for people to understand. So if you have low dopamine, you may just need more zinc. You may need more tyrosine, an amino acid. So if you have digestive problems and you're not absorbing your protein, if you're not absorbing your zinc, if you're not absorbing vitamin C, vitamin B3, vitamin B6, all of these building blocks for dopamine, you could be having issues, okay? High dopamine could be from not enough copper on the flip side, right? I've talked about the importance of the copper-zinc ratio. They have an inverse relationship. So some of these people are out here trying to self-supplement, and if they're just taking copper or if they're just taking zinc, they could be totally throwing off their zinc to copper ratio, causing other symptoms, potentially even causing gray hair, mental health concerns, ADHD. So it's really important to make sure you're working with a practitioner if you're going to be supplementing with high doses of some of these valuable, important minerals, just as an aside. I highly recommend testing. That's the easiest way to know what's happening with you, because we are all unique and we have unique needs, and our needs change with different stages in our life, and they change as our stress levels change. So just something to think about. I want to talk about another example of building blocks needed. So low serotonin. You may need more tryptophan. You may have heard about 5-HTP, right? That's the more available form that is closer to converting to serotonin. So these all can be very effective, but not in isolation if you're lacking some of these other critical cofactors. So you may also need vitamin D. Have you checked your vitamin D? Do you know your vitamin D number? I encourage you to. If you're struggling with any type of mental health concerns, you need to know your vitamin D. It needs to be between 50 and 80 nanograms per milliliter. So many people have lower levels, but they're not considered deficient by functional or by conventional medicine standards. So, a standard doctor, he's not going to say you're low, but you're not optimal. So there's other things that are really, really important for serotonin. B vitamins like B6 and B3, vitamin C, molybdenum, zinc, and I see magnesium low in a lot of my clients that have neurotransmitter imbalances. So if you have, just in summary, if you have any digestive issues, any signs of digestive issues, bloating, constipation, if you don't go to the bathroom every day, you need to make sure you have addressed all the gut bacteria. Now, I want to mention this. Neurotransmitter testing can be valuable, especially if you aren't getting the results you need from your medication, as an add-on to looking at some of these underlying issues. And neurotransmitter testing can actually be beneficial if you're having problems with, inability to focus, lack of mental clarity, poor memory, attention deficits, chronic pain, headaches, IBS, anxiety, depression, fatigue, insomnia, addictions, weight loss difficulties, eating disorders, cravings, poor impulse control. It can be beneficial for all of those things. And one of the comprehensive tests that I am now offering looks at serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, glutamate, GABA, glycine, histamine, PEA, and others depending on which panel you get. But another thing to consider is that if you've done a genetic test and you have a gene variant if you have a variant in the MTHFR gene, this increases your need for things like folate, methylfolate, and B12. And so this is something that I actually test for on an organic acids test. It just uses a simple urine sample. And it is, honestly, if you were to only run one at-home lab test to get a really comprehensive view of what's happening inside your body, it would be this organic acids test. IHPs call it the Complete Candida Metabolic and Vitamins Test. So you can check it out on my website, larissaness.com. But that is the one place to start if you're only able to do one lab test, because it's going to look at underlying root causes for why you might not be absorbing your vitamins and your minerals. It also has metabolites for serotonin and dopamine on it. We're also going to look at glutathione and folate and B12 and even biotin and CoQ10. And we're going to look at detoxification, and we're going to look at potential Candida overgrowth, even things like C. diff, some bacterial markers. So this is a really, really great test to start out with. But for anybody who's definitely dealing with serious mental health concerns, hands down, my top recommendation is to run what IHPs call the Big 5 labs. And I brought them up earlier. But I just want you to know that there is hope out there. If you are struggling and you have felt like you've been working with your therapist and you've been working for a while and you're still just not getting better, and you're trying to get outside and get more sunlight exposure, you owe it to yourself to start testing and stop guessing. That's my big, I want to be my big takeaway, or your big takeaway rather, for today, is you owe it to yourself to test and find out what's happening, whether you do it with me or another practitioner. But obviously I'm biased, but I'm a huge fan of integrative health practitioners, IHPs specifically, because they are also going to be, not only are they going to be your health detective to try to get to the underlying root causes on many, many levels, but they're also going to be able to be there for one-on-one support along the way through your journey to help you and make sure you reach your goals. And so it's very, very different from even, working with a functional medicine doctor. So Feel free to go to my website, laurasmith.com, if you want to learn more about that. But I would love, if you have any questions, feel free to DM me. I'd love to hear from you. And I'd also love to hear, if there's any topics you'd like to hear me speak on in the future, feel free to let me know about that. Okay, I hope everybody has a wonderful day.